Hi, my name is Winsley, and welcome to my second video going over the 1 year anniversary for Age of Wonders 4. I actually recorded the last video I did before the anniversary so that I could reflect on the year as a whole with a couple of my buddies, and then just post it on the day of. I wasn't expecting us to get a gift of appreciation, and I think that this is really special and worth highlighting in a separate video. They're giving us an extra exotic raptor mount, which is things like the mammoth mounts or the elephant mounts or the dire bear mounts, which give you access to extra gameplay mechanics as well as the cosmetic mount, which by the way looks phenomenal. This little raptor mount reminds me a lot of Age of Wonders Planetfall, which I think could be a nod to that, or it could just be something that people had requested a lot in separate places, like on the forums or on Reddit. They've done a couple polls on Reddit recently about what is your favorite XYZ, and that could have been from the developers. It could have been they just noticed that people were interested in this type of thing. So that's really, really neat. And then on top of that, we got an announcement that they are going to be developing the game past Eldritch Realms. They didn't announce much about Eldritch Realms here, but they did tell us that Eldritch Realms will be coming out in June, sometime in June. So we shouldn't expect that anytime too soon. But it is right around the corner, and I expect that since they've announced that they will be developing the game past Eldritch Realms, we'll probably hear more about what's coming after Eldritch Realms around when we get Eldritch Realms. It's interesting that they announced that they're going to be developing past this point, but they didn't tell us the names of the expansions or how many we're going to be getting in the next year. I have to imagine that's something they're still kind of thinking a little bit about. But yeah, let's actually take a look in game at these raptor mounts because they're pretty cool. So as we look at this animist, we can see the modifiers that the swiftfoot raptor mounts provide, and that would be a little bit of extra hit points. You get slippery, you get very fast movement, you get cavalry, and the ruler starts with a raptor mount, which is generally pretty weak compared to some of the other benefits. There's one that gives you plus 15 HP and reduces the number of models in a unit's figure basically, so that when they take damage, they take more damage before their damage gets reduced. So that was a pretty good mount. I have to say, I feel like getting slippery is okay. It's probably pretty solid for some units, but it's just generally not as useful as other things. But I think if you put it on, like, say, animists who really struggle when they are next to a bunch of melee enemies and they want to be able to support your friends from a relatively close distance. So being able to get them away from enemies without triggering attacks of opportunity could be very good on, say, a mounted animist like or a mounted support like the animist. But there's other things like the wild speaker, who's a mounted support, that would benefit quite a bit from this. And then I think any mounted ranged units like the Fury would probably benefit quite a bit from the uh, Swiftfoot Raptor mount. So I just noticed something pretty interesting with the very fast movements on the Raptor mounts. The fact that you get that on all of your units is quite different than the elephant mounts, because the heroes do get the very fast movement tag on their mounts when you get them on the hero unit, but all the other ones, they'll not be able to travel quite as far. Instead of being able to reach this hex, they would be able to get to that hex, and they wouldn't have 2 action points at this distance. They'd only be able to get 2 action points at basically this distance on other unit types. So that would be really beneficial for guys who have range attacks who want to act a little bit more offensively, a little bit faster. I think for that reason and the fact that you avoid opportunity attacks, the Raptors really lean into factions, or they really benefit factions that focus on being more offensive or doing more damage a little bit quicker. While I did just mention it a second ago, I do think it is actually worth showing off that I get 2 pips from this space on this normal elephant mounted unit, and then I'd be able to get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes away from where I started. And yeah, that's less than what a Raptor mount would be able to accomplish. I almost forgot to mention this really interesting infographic that they posted at the end of this post mentioning the free anniversary gift. They basically show us a bunch of numbers from the past year to just highlight a couple interesting aspects of the game and the choices people seem to be making. The fact that over 4 million factions were created is really impressive. That's just like a mind-boggling number of factions. I know I probably made dozens of factions, not anywhere close to 100 factions, but quite a lot of factions, and I have to imagine that that means there's like 100,000 or so copies of the game sold out there. That's quite a lot. If each person made 40 factions, that would be about what I would expect there. Um, and then Ruler Origins, the fact that Mortal Champion is the most popular, just it blows my mind. I don't really understand why so many people are choosing Mortal Champions over Dragon Lords and Wizard Kings, because most of the time I pick Wizard Kings, and I think most of the people that I talk to usually play Wizard Kings. That over channel ability is incredibly powerful. But I also just like playing a dragon every once in a while for like the tail swipe and just having a really strong piece on the board. The problem is they die a lot in auto combat, which can really hold back your entire nation, not just your army, because you lose access to research as well as like just general diplomacy things. I guess Mortal Champion is the default choice, so I guess makes sense that people might just click through it and have that be like their first faction, and then that's what they know, that's what they practice. Next thing they mentioned is how the top three cultures were number one, barbarian, number two, feudal, and number three, high. I mean, the fact that barbarian is the most popular makes sense to me. Being able to heal them and get movement points back from their ritual of alacrity is quite nice. It's quite powerful. Feudal does not make sense to me because I feel like a lot of people really dislike playing the feudal faction, at least in the circles that I see where people are talking about these things on Reddit, on the forums, on Discord. I've never seen feudal be a generally popular build, but I know a lot of people like the high culture and a lot of people like the barbarian culture. Being able to awaken your units is really neat because you get very powerful damage channel. You get very powerful um, effects on your units when they are awakened, and you can also pass things like warding through your supports. If you have the Tome of Warding, you can make it so all of your units have a lot more resistance quite easily. It's a free action. You just pop that up across your army, and everybody else now has extra damage and resistance. Um, 70% of factions were created with non-human fantasy forms. So basically, 30% were humans, and Molkin will seek vengeance for being the least popular form. Oh, poor Molkin. That's pretty funny. I like that. The game difficulty uh, is interesting the way they break this down. A lot of people actually play this on easy. It seems like the largest percentage of people turn down the difficulty and play it on easy. I would not have expected that. I would have expected the largest percentage to be the people who put on the normal setting. 9% go for hard, 7% go for relaxed, and only 6% of players go for brutal. This is just blowing my mind. This is another thing I wouldn't have expected, but they get to see these numbers on the back end, so they just, yeah, this is across the board. All the single player experiences um, that I would have never heard about are included here versus all the multiplayer experiences and practice like that people use to get ready for those. Those are generally on either normal or brutal because people like a challenge, and brutal can be a challenge, but I don't know. I don't think that the way the AI handles brutal like stacks is very good because it's just they die. They just die and die and die, and it makes it easier for you to go attack the AI. Like you're gonna have trouble fighting the map too, but a lot less trouble actually winning the match in the end if in my opinion if you turn up the difficulty. The top starting tomes are Tome of Evolution. Yes, I get that. Slither's amazing, so much fun from a thematic point of view, but also the slip away is just so good, so strong. Tome of the Faith, I get. It's pretty good. I've been playing around with it more recently. Tome of Enchantment is neat. I think it's got some good things in there that lets you um, make things just generally more powerful. Like I forget actually what you get in Tome of Enchantment, but I think it's maybe the building one, the one that makes you build up things faster, or the one that has to do with the elementals. No, that's Tome of Rock that I'm thinking of. Yeah, the enchantment one is that's interesting. That's one that I don't use that much. It's also just right there at the top of the in-game tomes used. So I'm gonna have to spend more time thinking about that. Artificing is one I like because it gives you crit chance. Tome of Enchantment might too, but I just don't know it off the top of my head. Tome of Evocation is very nice. Being able to do lightning damage is so good. It's one of the best lightning channels in the game. Those elementals you can get from it are nice too. But I think like the spell that reduces people's resistances to lightning from the Tome of Evocation is very good, and then you combine that with like lightning blades and fulmination, and you've just got an amazing tome. um, Society traits that are popular. Wait, this is a lot. 100k, 200k, 300k, 400k. Over 400k societies had the Adept Settlers trait, and then Great Builders was second, followed by Prolific Swarmers, Runesmith, Chosen Uniters. Whoa, I would not expected that to be up there in popularity. Ruthless Raiders I kind of get, but yeah, Adept Settlers it makes sense. You can just build cities faster, get your economy going. Great Builders is also another one for building up your economy. A lot of these seem to be economy focused, which is it makes sense. You need your economy to be good for before your military can go be super effective. I mean, you can go all military right from the beginning, but that's pretty risky. And the last thing they put in here is the amount of dire penguin victims. Uncountable. Yes, unforgivable. How could they? It's just pure facts at the end. The amount of times Primal Fury was called Primal Furry. Okay, it's good. I love it. They got such a great sense of humor. This right here just highlights what I love about Triumph and Paradox. They can be serious and give us good like metrics, like really useful metrics, but then they can also just have a fun time and be a little bit silly with it. But yeah, that's pretty much everything here. I'll see you around. Have a good one.